Hey there, everybody. This is our next installment of the D.I.L.F show. My name is Andy Christopher, aka the dad I listen to frequently. Get your mind out of the gutter. And welcome back. Welcome. We've got a fun show today. I've received my first piece of email and a question, and I'm going to address it right away because I'm just so amped up. And it's such a topical question in terms of, what to expect right out of the gate. And it also addresses, and what we're really going to focus on today is, some of the scariest things that I went into going into fatherhood. But if you can see the stream, thank goodness goodness, I don't look like a homeless trash bag. Dad hair is a real thing. I finally got my haircut, and man, I was sitting there for the first time in months getting my haircut, just thinking, I really just am enjoying this right now. This is great. And there are so many of those little things that I just take for granted. Getting a haircut is definitely one of them. Um, Showering every day. I'm actually relatively clean right now. It's pretty rare, but I don't feel ultra disgusting. But there are times when you'll go 3, 4, 5 days without showering, especially with the pandemic. There were just less people to impress. So I was pretty disgusting. And that just kind of became the status quo. Um, you also take for granted wearing clean clothes. I actually just finished up a workout, but I usually am, and I mean, right now is perfect example. I'm not wearing clean clothes, or Arlo throws something on it. You just get food, you get boogers, you get poop, you get something on it that you just have to make your peace with. You're probably not going out into the world looking squeaky clean. Today I had a warm cup of coffee, really take that for granted. And today I also took a dump without fear, without Arlo running around. So you go you got to take your shit, and you have to bring your child in with you. Like right now, Arlo is running all over the place. He is just an absolute bat out of hell, wonderful madman, just screaming all over the place and just kicking the soccer ball and doing things every single which way. But I have to either lock him in the bathroom or put the slide up so that he doesn't and can't get to it. But if the door is open, or now he can actually open doors, believe it or not, he's almost a year and a half. So door opening is becoming a thing. And so he opens the door, he runs out. There is like this fear. Did I close the baby gate? Is there anything that he can jump on? Taking a dump without fear is something that I definitely took for granted. So there are lots of those little goodies. If you do have any other ones that you took for granted, shoot me an email, follow up on social media, wherever it might be, and let me know what yours are, because there's so many things out there that I get to do this again, or I get to do this solo. This is so great. Another just kind of segue where, Arlo's kicking the ball. We're actually talking about signing him up for little kid soccer league. Julia is obsessed with the idea of watching 18 to 24 months run around and try and kick the soccer ball. And Arlo's pretty proficient at it. He's pretty good. He's got his little goal. He's doing his thing. And it reminded me of this, some of the things and some of the accomplishments that he's now doing, the things that he loves doing, are so fundamental and simple that we really, take those things for granted, that we just do them, right? And it's such an accomplishment in their life. But I'm reminded of the Office episode in the later seasons where Plop and Clark are clapping, for, hey, when Andy Bernard does something that is like borderline cool, like pouring a cup of coffee or something like that. And they're like, yeah, now it's having this reverse effect where we think everything he does is cool. That's kind of what being a parent is every single accomplishment they make, when they first roll over, when they first start crawling, when they do all these little things. You're just like, have I forgotten what's really cool? Because this is pretty amazing right now. And, right now, Arlo's really big into turning on light switches, and we clap for him for that. He's putting his animals in the ball pit and like jumping in after. Hey, nice job, buddy. That's so great. And he's also, his words, all the things that he's saying, he's starting to kind of make sense. And we can tell that he understands things. We ask him to put something somewhere and he goes and does it. Put your dish away, your dirty dish. He goes to the dishwasher. It's pretty cool. But now he's been saying a lot of where is it? He'll kick a ball under and he'll say, where is it? Where'd it go? But a cool one that really popped up, he will hold a ball and then he'll hand me a bat and he'll say pitch, like pitching. I don't know where he learned that. I haven't watched baseball with him before. I literally have never said this word. And he said pitching, pitcher, and batter, all within the same frame. But the best one is he'll fall or he'll like try and shoot and he'll miss and he'll say, "Oh shit." I'm telling you, it's the cutest thing, but definitely makes me think of that office portion where they don't know what's cool anymore. We think everything he does is cool, and I guarantee you'll think the same thing. Um, so getting into the actual episode content, the question that came in, and this came from Miles, who is a soon-to-be dad in Northern California. Miles, I thank you so much for listening. I'm just so stunned. And thank you for sending this email because this is so pertinent to, getting into the mindset of being a dad. And his question was really simple. And it was just what scared me the most before the baby was born. And we've spoken about a couple of things, and I'll kind of dive a little bit deeper, but I really wanted to give you just kind of my list of the shit that freaked me out when we were actually leading up to the process. And then, a couple things after I was born that, you learn along the way. But hopefully you can kind of really address your fears. And I mentioned previously, talk to your spouse and know that you're going to learn so much just by sheer experience. But here were a couple of things that really freaked me out when, I was going into the process. And the process, I mean, it's not a process. You're having a freaking baby. It's a life event, right? And, the biggest thing that scared me, honestly, was just holding and changing my baby. It was really comical to watch me try and hold children before I had my own kid because I thought that I was going to break them. And I literally didn't know how to cradle a baby. I would always I do like the Rachel Green from Friends where, I would hold the baby out like a ticking time bomb. Like I don't know what to do with you. It's actually a really great story of when we visited Wichita and, I'll tell you the horror story about when I dressed up like Santa Claus and got fully exposed by one of the kids there. But I was holding this kid, and there's a famous photo of me. Maybe I'll try and locate it and put it up. And I am just so uncomfortable holding this little 1-year-old baby. Don't know what to do. I'm looking at it, trying to, just imagine, hey, are you my kid? I don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And it's amazing how quickly holding your baby gets and becomes natural because you realize that they're ultra resilient. And once they can, once you're past the point where you have to hold their head and neck up the entire time, it's really just make sure that they don't slip out of your hands as opposed to like the exact ways to hold them. But yeah, in those first few months when they're the floppiest heads ever. And Arlo, bless his heart, was always on the 99 plus percentile for head size. We had a little hamburger baby, and his head would flop all over the place. And it actually made it difficult for him to learn how to crawl and do all these different things. But I was so freaked out about how to just physically hold my baby that it scared me. It almost scared me into the point where I don't know if I'm ready to have kids. I don't know how to hold the kid. And so, just kind of practiced and held things here and there and just imagine what it would be like if I had to protect this little piece of life. And then once you actually get handed your baby and you get to hold your child, you find the stance and the spot that is most natural for you. And he was super tiny. He came 5 weeks early. And, I still remember those days when I would hold him literally just against my chest. And, my hands like ensconced his entire body. And, that was how it started. And, he would lay and rest his head on my chest and then kind of evolved into a side hold. And now, pick him up underneath the arms and, just side straddle him and hold him in all these different ways. But you'll really find your stride and you'll get into it with your own child in terms of what's most comfortable for you and based off of your situation. Changing the baby. I was so freaked out about changing a dirty diaper, and it's going to sound really weird, but just how to handle like genitalia that you just kind of have to clean off all the time. And Julia, some of our doctor friends, they've had a vastly different experience when it comes to looking at and being in the presence of genitalia. To me, it's like the sacred thing. But then you just kind of realize that it's just flesh and part of the body. And, you get over that very, very quickly. But just making sure that I'm super like, I'm really, really kind of anal when it comes to getting things very, very crisp and clean. And so if there's like a lingering piece of poop, or if there's a spot that's still wet, or there's something that I might have missed, it's so hard for me to just like get the big picture, get the big stuff off. I focus in on those little details, and I just want to make sure that they're ultra, ultra clean every single time. But I was scared to change a baby. I didn't really know how to change a diaper. Diapers are very, very user friendly if you weren't aware. And so, just getting into it. And if you remember my story from, I believe it was last time, or maybe a couple times ago, where I spoke about what it was like in the delivery room, and how I had that forced, 6 months of dad experience condensed into about 24 hours out of pure necessity. Just get in there and change as many freaking diapers as you can. Just get in there, rip your own like mental band-aid off, and just do it. Just start changing them. You'll find a rhythm. You'll find your way. And now Arlo's just kicking and screaming all over the place on the changing table. He just will no chill zone. But get in there and change as many as you can, especially when they're little, because then it just the repetition of it becomes so simple, and you'll figure it out. Another one of the things that really scared me was sleep deprivation. I'd never genuinely experienced sleep deprivation outside of maybe going to a music festival or single one-off things. But I know that Julia has been through this process, because when it comes to her physician schedule, I mean, sometimes you're working 16, 18 hours, and then you come back and then you barely get to sleep, and you got to go do it all over again. And the repetition of this, you have a sleep debt to pay, and you just can't get it back. Well, that started to freak me out in terms of, well, how am I going to handle this? How am I going to handle my normal duties? And I do think that when it came to my work, not sleeping enough started to affect me just by adding to my stress levels, because when you don't get to sleep, you don't get to hit the reset button. And so you do need to prepare yourself for not sleeping during, that first, 1 to 6 months. And we'll talk about this in the next episode a little bit on what to expect in the first month. But when it came to sleep deprivation, the reason that exists is because at the onset, the baby's sleep window, they're on and off sleep in about 45-minute to an hour intervals. I mean, they're just awake, asleep, awake, asleep, awake, asleep. They eat, they fall asleep, and there's no consistency. And that's the 24-hour schedule. So you're just constantly playing catch up. So what Julia and I did was we tried to recognize within the other person when they needed a chunk of sleep. And we did our best to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to stay awake with the kiddo tonight. And, or I'm only going to sleep in those small 45-minute to, hour and a half windows. You sleep, you just do your best to get as much sleep as you possibly can. And we traded off those days when we really recognized that the other one was really struggling. So if you need to figure out a schedule like that, I know other parents have taken full nights and just said, hey, this is your night, this is my night, this is your night, this is my night. The toughest part is when the baby is nursing. Obviously, Julia and the wife, the mother needs to be part of that process, unless you've got, a ton of bottles stored up or whatever it might be. But the physical sleep debt is going to catch up with you. And you just have to do your best to maintain your patience and maintain your calm and find those little windows where you can also put, gets a little bit of rest in just to try and catch up a little bit. But that scared me in terms of what it was going to do for my work output, my exercising. And there were things that were definitely hurt just because we didn't sleep enough. Here's another thing that scared me, which is just messing up the status quo, getting in the way. I don't know how else to best describe it, but it seems like the mom and the baby get into a certain vibe. And to a certain degree, and to well, I'm not to a certain degree, to a very large degree, there's only so many things that can be done physically with the child. If you're taking care of stuff and you're cleaning dishes and doing laundry and getting food and preparing food and this and that, that's wonderful. Good on you. But, when they're nursing and when there's certain time, I just didn't want to mess things up when there was a good flow, when, baby started to sleep a little bit better. I was just afraid that I'm going to mess something up and throw everything out of whack. And this is where knowing the checkpoints in terms of what to expect on, like 4-month regressions, on the different kind of milestones and leaps and things like that really comes in handy. And knowing when it's kind of on you and kind of not on you. But the thing that we've always tried to go back to is that the baby is supposed to fit into our lives, not the other way around. And it's easier said than done for sure. But I just didn't want to be the reason that the baby didn't sleep that night, or the baby, or, he only slept for 30 minutes or didn't eat, or, was unhappy or didn't have enough lotion on his skin or something like that. I always felt like I was playing a little bit of catch up in that regard, but that freaked me out. I just didn't want to be the reason that something got thrown out of whack. And, it led to kind of tension and stress within my relationship with Julia, and then obviously the relationship with the baby. This is probably one of the biggest ones, and that is just not knowing something. I love doing research and knowing everything that's going into, working with my clients, or where we're staying at a hotel, or what to expect on a hike. All the research is available on Google. You can find whatever you need to out there. So we just want to be prepared. And when it comes to a baby, there's nothing you could do that's going to prepare you. So right out of the gate, when any situation arises, it's going to be brand new for you, even if it's been done, 10 million times before you, because your child, your family dynamic, your situation is going to be different from anything else. So you're kind of painting your own canvas, which I think is really beautiful to think about, in terms of you're creating something that wouldn't exist without your little family unit there. And I just kind of piggybacking off what I was just speaking about, I just wanted to know. I wanted to know certain things. When would Arlo start eating normal food? Like when would I know that his diaper needed to be changed? When would I know certain things as they're arising? Like, how could I be proactive about it? Right. And sorry, I got to make a little adjustment here. Think we're still good there. Let me see. Yeah, I think we're good. We're back. And so I think I'm there. Okay. And when it comes to all that stuff that you can really, really only learn by doing, right? You just, God damn it. All right, I think I got it back. So with all that stuff that you can only learn by doing, you have to admit to yourself, you know what? This is just something I got to do and get through and take action on, right? Everything we do in life comes from taking action, right? If you want to get stronger, you don't read a book on doing push-ups. You just go and you work out and do a bunch of push-ups to get stronger, right? And so everything that I've spoken about, changing the baby and feeding the baby and all this stuff, It just comes with time and experience, but you can prepare yourself by just doing a little bit of legwork ahead of time. And the thing that scared me though was that I never want to be that person who doesn't have the answers, right? I always want to be that pillar of support and confidence, and have people ask me and say, hey, what about this? It's like, oh, I know about that. And through this whole thing, I've definitely learned to, more so admit when I don't have the answer, but when, I need to go find the answer. And then knowing that I've tried some things that just didn't pan out 100%, trying to feed him something that was too hot and just having him spit it out and cry because, his tongue got a little bit burned. Food being too crunchy, or trying a different method of like applying lotion and then, putting on the diaper and, having him completely out of whack for, a day or so. You learn trial and error, do it, learn from it, try not to make mistakes. And then remember that baby's going to adjust. Baby is going to keep growing and keep changing things up on you. Excuse me. So as soon as you think you have it dialed in, they're going to flip the script and say, nope, don't want to do it that way anymore. Then you got to pivot and figure out exactly what that next best move is for you. But I hate not knowing. I wish there was a better, more elegant solution. You just got to get over it and keep taking action, keep doing things that help you learn from the mistakes that you made. You just keep failing forward a little bit. In one of the first episodes, I talked about the life that was, and I think I'd be remiss not to revisit this just for a second, because there is that fear, that scared me. Am I going to have the same friends? Am I going to be able to go out and do the things that I used to do? Am I going to be able to eat the same way? Am I going to be able to exercise? Am I going to be able to travel? All these things pop into your head. And then you especially start thinking about, what's my relationship going to look like with my significant other? Is it going to be vastly different, or is it just going to be an evolution? And if you look at all these things as your life is evolving, you're in a constant state of growth as a human being. And that is your journey, right? That is your process. And so this is a stage of you evolving as a person. And when a chapter closes, it's not like you're completely starting from a blank slate. A lot, and you're taking in a lot of that experience. But that's why I think it's so important to get all that stuff out and do as much as you can, either before you have kids or before you're 30. Like I said, I don't think you should have kids before you're 30, like ever. And I'll talk about that, with anyone who wants to kind of fight it. But you feel like you're making all these sacrifices, and then it's 6 months down, it's 7 months down, it's 8 months down, and you feel like the clock is running out. But right around 7 months, I tried to look at it as, I'm evolving, our family is evolving, we're growing. And it really shifted the scope and gave me this kind of sense of peace and calm of just, damn, we're going to be better for this, we're going to be stronger and a much more cohesive unit because of the baby, right? We're not giving up all these things that used to be fun. And, there are things that I used to do that were fun that aren't that fun anymore, right? And so now you learn to appreciate when you can see your friends and family, when you can go out and grab a beer, when you can go travel and go for a hike and, just sleep in or something like that. And you really, really appreciate all these things and all these unifying and, all these experiences that you have with or without other people, because you've gone through the trials and tribulations of actually having the kiddo. And with that fear, you might get a little bit of cold feet. You might hold on to it even after the baby's born. And that might be something that you need to address. But personally, if you just look at it as, we're growing and we're doing this new thing, and we will be something far bigger than what we were before. I think that's just going to put so much of that fear, that scariness, and that stress to bed right out of the gates, as soon as the kiddo arrives, that you'll be thankful that you thought about it that way. This is kind of a weird one. I was afraid about messing up putting in the car seat. I remember many years ago, I was talking to my brother-in-law and just asking him, like, how do you do this so easily? Like, how is this happening? And I'm watching him take in and put in all these things in the rental car when they're visiting us, and he's just like, I don't know, you just kind of, you figure it out, you do it. And this fortunately has a manual, but I was just freaked out that I was going to put it in wrong, and then something was going to happen and it was going to hurt our child because I didn't put in the car seat correctly. So fortunately, there's tons of YouTube videos and there's so much information out there about how to correctly put in a car seat. That was just a little weird fear of mine. And then after Arlo was born, this is the softie in me. I've cried at a Trident gum commercial. I've cried at songs. I've once cried while watching The Nutty Professor. I've cried during the stupidest things. And after a certain age, I don't know, this cry button was just available in me, and I've accessed it plenty of times. It's usually out of happiness. And I embrace and appreciate that. But one of the things I didn't realize was going to be kind of so sad once Arlo was born is the aging out of his toys. And I like to think of, if you've seen the movie Inside Out and you remember the character Bing Bong, I could think about that right now and think about that scene, and it could bring me to tears. So I'm just going to get past it. It's already working. But when it comes to that, you see him playing with all these little toys, and you think that these toys are going to be part of his life forever. And then he just gets over it. It's just, oh, this one's done. And they get kicked to the curb. And as you're putting toys away, and maybe for the last time, it's just like, oh man, not only are we so much further past, where we thought we were in terms of how old he is, in terms of his growth and development, but it started to resonate with me, and just all the memories that you have with that little toy. So I'm looking at these toys just like, oh, this is the first time, he rolled over. This is the first thing he threw to me, or this is the first of this. And those little things, hit you emotionally, and it's make sure that you keep these things, because it could be fun to reference. And some people look at them as junk, and there are certain things that you can give away and pass down and things like that. But the really, really important ones, make sure you hang on to those for as long as you possibly can. Don't lose them, because they're just as meaningful to you as potentially to your child. And I think about little things like that in terms of I know my dad has done a really wonderful job about this. He dates all the birthday cards, and he dates all the Christmas cards and things like that. So you can go back and have a like chronological referencing of either the gift you got, or the birthday wish, or the sentiment shared with you. And that is so cool to start putting together this little catalog of memories. And now I think we kind of use our phones and maybe social media to a degree to kind of be that catalog and be that legacy. But do not dismiss these, little trinkets and toys, and these little moments that you can keep in time, because when you look back, I guarantee you, you're going to appreciate that you had it, and it's going to be some really cool chronological order of growth for your child when they're a little bit older. But dang, watching some of these toys go in the trash, or in the whatever, or they break. Oh, it's the most heartbreaking. It's brutal. But there's still probably so many things that scare other people, and other things that I didn't even talk about that probably scared me along the way. What did I miss? What did I miss here in terms of those other things that might scare you, whether it's leading into the idea of pregnancy, whether it's right before the baby's born, or things that you're learning that kind of freak you out after the baby's born? Shoot me an email, thedilfshow@gmail.com. Hit me up on our socials @thedilfshow. You could visit the website, thedilfshow.com. Let me know, because I want to keep building on this. Some of these episodes I want to revisit, and I want to make sure that we're addressing all these things. And oh man, that's a good one. I totally didn't even think of that. I want to know what your experiences were in terms of what your fears were, and maybe how you overcame them as well. Any stories that you have, I'd love to read them. So please feel free to share. And once again, Miles, thank you so much for sending me that first email and that wonderful kind of user question. Really appreciate you, man. So, like I said, next episode, we're going to talk about what to expect in the first month of being a parent, being a dad, what that looks like for you, kind of give you a little small blueprint, and hopefully alleviate some of maybe the fears that you have about that first month of kiddo being here. So, Andy Christopher, aka the DILF, signing off for this week. And thank you again so much for listening. Please feel free, like, share, get it in front of the people who you need to get it in front of. But the more you leave me feedback, the more the show can grow. We're going to be having some guests on in the coming days, and we're going to talk about all sides of it. We're going to be talking about working parents. We're going to be talking about entrepreneurs. We're even going to talk to someone who doesn't have children and what their philosophy is. Okay. So let me know what you want to hear about. Keep propelling the show to the next evolution of it as we go back to the, evolve and grow mentality. But that's it for me, signing off for this week. I love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Thank you so much for listening.